Hi there. Could you please tell us who you are?
My name is Jacqueline Luqman. I am a member of the Black Alliance for Peace. I'm the organizer for the Mid-Atlantic region of the organization and the organizer for Baptiste.
And you also are affiliated with Sputnik.
Yes, I am the co-host of By Any Means Necessary on Radio Sputnik with Sean Black.
You guys do an incredible job raising awareness, bringing balance to the news and information. And why are you here today?
Well, I'm here today because I'm African, and I understand that imperialism has to end on the continent. When the European nations decided to carve up the continent in 1884, 1885, they chose for themselves which parts of the continent, which parts of our people they would rule over and exploit and steal from. And even though these European nations do not have official formal colonies on the continent anymore, they do still control the continent, their former colonies, through neo-colonialism. So France is the neo-colonial power in Niger, and they must be uprooted and escorted out of the country for the people to live. And now that the military has decided they no longer want France in the country, now there is, ECOWAS and with the backing of, the African Union, and of course other European nations and the United States. They want a military solution to a military transition that was bloodless. They want to shed blood to respond to a bloodless military transition. And that is typical of imperialism, to solve their problems and to respond to the voices of the people, challenging and opposing them with military might and bloodshed. But the time of that working, the time of that silencing the people is over. People are tired of being oppressed. And
so you don't think that the French would have a chance, that their efforts is going to succeed?
The people are in control of the situation in Niger. Right now, as we speak, there are thousands of Nigerians at the French base in Niamey. Thousands. So the French will have a hard time responding to that type of people power with military force and getting away with it. I don't think their efforts will be successful. I'm not saying that this struggle will be easy and it'll be over tomorrow. I believe it will be a struggle. But I do not think the French efforts and its bosses, the U.S., their efforts to maintain imperialist control on the continent, I don't think it will be successful.
What do you think the role of the Chinese and the Russians could be, positive or negative?
I think the role of the Chinese and Russians will be positive or negative depending on the kind of relationships the people in African nations forge with those countries. From what we see, unlike the U.S. and France and Belgium and Spain and Portugal, China and Russia come into negotiations in African nations at least willing to pay for the resources they know they need.
They don't have the history.
They don't have a history of colonization. Russia and China have never colonized Africa. They don't have a colonial oppressive relationship with Africa. The Chinese debt trap myth is a lie. China has forgiven more debt in African nations than the IMF has ever thought about. And African nations have a right to decide who they want to do business with if the conditions of those negotiations are fair and beneficial to the African people.
And I also believe that it is symbiotic, the way that they are approaching it, because they need to create a new market for their products.
Exactly.
They are really trying to prop up the economies in any way that they can so they can have market for their own. Because the European markets are not there anymore.
Exactly. And I think as long as sovereign African nations believe they are getting a good deal with whomever they want to deal with, they should absolutely do that. Because isn't that what self-determination is? The United States and France and Europe, they get to decide who they want to do business with all the time. And when they're angry with a country that doesn't want to do business with them, what do? They sanction them. And then when the country doesn't buckle under the sanctions, then they send in the military.
So you actually see a real transition taking place in various parts of Africa, and it's going to have a long-term impact.
I think this is an historical moment that we are living through, witnessing, and taking part in. This kind of Pan-African agitation. We have not seen it for decades. For decades, and in some cases, some of these military leaders on the continent are going even farther than some of the former African revolutionary leaders in telling France to get out, in telling the ambassadors, you have X amount of time to leave.
And it's going to be a trendsetter.
It is. I think it is a movement that is going to spread. It is not going to be easy. Do not be deceived. The colonialists, the neo-colonialists, and the imperialists, they're not going down without fight. There will be some bloodshed. There will be a struggle.
Like, drug addicts.
Yes.
Exactly.
There will be a struggle, but it is a struggle that has been decades in the making, and I do not believe the struggle will be given up easily. I do believe we will win. I believe this is a historic moment, and this is an historic moment for Pan-Africanism, for international solidarity with working class and poor Africans and working class and poor people throughout the world. U.S. imperialism in particular is in its death throes, and this is when it's most dangerous, of course, but certainly it is weakened and it is losing its grip on the rest of the world, and the working and oppressed people of the world know this, so we are fighting.
What do you think is the consciousness level of blacks in the United States, and how can you increase that?
That is a part of this struggle that both saddens me, but it also forces me to tap into revolutionary optimism, because the consciousness of Africans in the U.S. is low. We are a deeply indoctrinated and ideologically captured people to U.S. capitalism. So many of us are fully bought into, if we're not fully bought into the American way of life, we believe that what goes on in these other countries don't matter to us because we are struggling so much here ourselves. We don't think that these other things are important, that what's going on in Niger and Burkina Faso and Guinea and Mali and Gabon, because we are barely able to survive here ourselves, we think those things aren't important. But that is also a product of the indoctrination that we are under. We are made to believe that the struggles on the continent, the struggles in Eritrea, don't matter to us, because look at how hard it is. You're having a hard enough time keeping food on your table. Why should you care about what's going on in Eritrea? But what's going on in Eritrea is directly connected to what's being done to us here. So they tell us that these things are not connected to us, that we shouldn't worry about these things. We should worry just about trying to survive. Meanwhile, the very same people who are telling us that are dropping bombs in your country, are dropping bombs in Niger, are propping up a CIA drone base, are spreading AFRICOM and increasing terrorism on the continent. The same people who tell us, occupying Haiti, the same people who tell us that we are not African and that what goes on in Africa has nothing to do with us are the same people who are carrying out the chaos and violence against our people in Africa. So just by that virtue, if people don't want to look at anything else, just by virtue of the fact that the same people are telling us not to pay attention to Africa are causing the problems in Africa, that's why Africa is also our problem.
Any statements that you'd like to make, announcements that you'd like to make to help the cause?
You know, for us in this country, and obviously for Africans throughout the world, this is life. Revolution is life, because we understand that wherever we are throughout the world, we are not free. As long as imperialism has any kind of a grip or influence on our people, as long as colonialism controls our governments and our resources and limits how our people can live, we are not free. So this is our life, to struggle until we are free. And we will continue to struggle until not just we in the United States are free. We will struggle and we will fight until every African on the planet is free. Because when Africa is free, then we are all free.
What can they do?
People, first of all, need to get connected to a revolutionary, anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist, anti-colonialist organization. It's great to be angry about what you see happening, but one person cannot wage a war. Not against this beast we are fighting. We have to be organized in formations of like-minded people to sharpen our understanding about what is going on around the world, to help us make these connections that maybe we didn't understand were there, and to teach us how to fight. Because organization is what created this event. An organization, a people getting together in an organization striving toward a common goal. So the first thing people need to do is join an organization, a revolutionary, anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, anti-colonial organization that is focused on the working class and the poor.
Well, I thank you very much. You are incredible, and Africans are blessed to have you on their side. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh.